Hi guys, today we are going to be making these little snowmen using clothespins. Okay, the reason why I'm having you make these is because each grade level is going to be making a craft to sell at Hometown Christmas. That's part of being an artist, is painting something or creating something and then selling it to others. All the money that we raise will be put back into our art and music program so I can get y'all some cool stuff. Okay, so this is going to take a little while because you're going to have to paint the white and then let it dry. So there's going to be a different activity in between while we wait. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your blank clothespin and you're going to paint it white. Now, when I paint it white, I'm going to paint the whole thing, but you have to be very careful not to get any globs. See how I got a glob right there along that line? Okay, you need to smooth that out. You do not need to get more paint if you have those globs. You just take those globs and you spread them out into other places on the clothespin. You're going to do the sides as well as the top and bottom. Now, somebody showed me a cool trick in one of the other classes. What they did is they took their clothespin and they clipped it to the end of their plate and kind of folded it up a little bit. So that way they didn't have to hold it and get their fingers wet by the paint. Now, once you get this completely done, you're gonna have to wait for it to dry. It may not look perfectly white, like it may not look like a very heavy white, but that's okay. People like to be able to see a little bit of the grain of the wood, so it's not a big deal if it's not perfectly bright white. Okay, so you get the idea there. You're going to even do the inside of this part there. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just a little bit. And make sure you get all the sides. If you get some on the metal piece on the side, it's not a big deal. That part will just kind of peel off the paint. Okay, so once you get yours painted, you need to put your paintbrush into your water so that way the paint does not dry on your brush. Okay, see, this is the Veterans Day project. Each of you is going to get one of these pages. Each of the squares is part of that big poster over there. Okay? Now, notice this page just says R. What does R mean? Red. So that means this whole page right here is going to be colored red. But if you look at the next page, some of you will get this one. Okay, so if you get this one, notice that there's a big spot that's red. There's some smaller spots that are blue. Notice there's nothing in this area. If it says nothing, then it's going to be white. Okay, now this is important for me. Once you cut this square out, which make sure you cut it very straight and on the line, once you cut that out, on the back of the square, you're going to put the letter and number that goes with your square. It helps me put the puzzles together or to see if any pieces are missing. Okay, notice that there's a difference between these two squares. Okay, this one's a lot lighter looking. They did not color as dark. This one's much darker. I want it to look like this. Okay, that does not mean you have to dig your pencil into it. You just gently go back over it again and it will start to darken. As you guys finish, there's going to be extra papers probably that you can get because you have to finish the whole packet. So as you finish, you can ask for another one. Okay, for the next part, you're going to need a permanent marker. They should be in your caddy. Okay, you have to pretend, because this one's still a little wet. Okay, see how there's these little grooves, these lines here? You're going to color just above those with your permanent marker. It will not work if your paint is still wet. So make sure that you're not doing this where your paint's still wet. Okay, next you'll do your little eyes. I always start with the eyes, then I do the eyebrows, and then I do the dots. Okay, that's your next step. After that, when you're ready, the teacher will come around with this little cup and let you get just a tiny bit of orange. Okay, when you do the orange, you're going to come at a slant. So like if I'm drawing it, it's going to be a diagonal line. See how it kind of comes down to the side? If you do not have a thin brush, you have to get a different brush. This will only work with a thin brush, okay? So if one of the other people at your table have a thin brush, use it to do this. A thick brush will just smear orange all over your snowman's face, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, after that, when you're done, okay, there's this cute little thread here. I also have some jute that we might use, but for right now we're going to use this until we run out. Okay, when you tie this on, you're only going to tie it around the one part of the clip. You're not going to tie it around the whole thing because they have to be able to pinch it and it will mess with it if you keep it on both. Okay, and when you knot it, you know how you tie your shoes, how you start it? Okay, you do the under over, pull tight. You're going to do under over, pull tight again. That way it makes a knot and it won't come off. Okay, once you do that, you are done. If you would like to add buttons, you can certainly add buttons. Some of my kids did that. Okay, but that's essentially it. Okay, now once y'all are done with this project, you need to make sure that you clean up everything. You'll need to dump the water into the blue igloo cooler over there. You'll stack the water cups there. Your paintbrushes, throw them into the igloo cooler. I know it looks gross, but throw them in there because if your paintbrush dries with paint on it, acrylic paint, it can ruin it. So just throw them in there. As long as they're wet, they're fine. Also make sure that if there's any paint on the table that you wipe it up. And also make sure all the supplies get back in the caddies. Okay? All right. Thank you. Have a good day.